This is WZRD Chicago 88.3 FM. And we have with us at WZRD Bonnie Bagdon. She is a member of GeNarrations of Goodman Theatre. How are you today, Bonnie?
I am fine on this very warm, hot day.
It's cooler down here in the basement, right?
Right, good place to be.
Well, first of all, Bonnie, tell us a little bit about GeNarrations and how you became involved in it.
GeNarrations is a storytelling performance workshop for people who are 55 years and older. It is run by the Goodman Theatre, and I became aware of it at a performance, actually of Lifeline Theater, where there were some generation participants were doing stories in their festival, which is called Filet of Solo, once a year. And that was maybe 2 years before I became a participant. And then the alderman for my ward, advertised it in her new weekly newsletter. And it's very simple. You just go onto the website and sign up and give your information, your name and your phone number, and choose, the time and place you'd like to participate in.
Mm-hmm. And what does participation entail?
They offer a 7-week program in what's called personal narrative performance pieces. And what they simply mean is you're going to be working on writing a story about something from your personal life. I mean, not personal in a bad way, but just a topic or a situation, and it can be a whole variety of things. And you have a teaching artist, and you meet once a week for 2 hours, and they help and guide you in the writing and performance of your piece. It's open, as I said, to anyone over age 55. There's no charge for the program at all.
Mm-hmm. And the teaching artist, is that a playwright? Is that are they a member of Goodman Theatre?
A member in the sense that they participate in this activity. They most often have a theater background. I mean, there is a selection process, and I believe new teaching participants, people who are doing that, go through, I guess it would be a training program in the sense that they would follow along another teaching artist to see what kinds of things are done. But these are all experienced people in writing and performing from maybe different areas and at different times. And I'm not certain exactly their application process, but there is an application process. So they are people who enjoy doing this and are capable of, inspiring people who may be a little bit outside of their comfort zone, never having written a story and shared it with other people.
Mm-hmm. When people write, do they write long pieces, short pieces? How do they form it so that everybody is kind of on the same page?
The classes are small, first of all. There's never more than 15 people in a class, and they offer usually 21 classes a 7-week session. And so there's a lot of personal attention, and everybody is given equal time. The pieces are short. I mean, they can be, generally speaking, they're about 5-minute pieces, and these are not hour-long performances. And there's a topic from a play at the Goodman or musical, and they offer that as the topic. For example, when they had Joe Turner is coming home, they said the theme is coming home or whatever. And you can interpret that very broadly. And the teacher usually will begin the session with prompts to help you think about things and start off. And so usually they'll go through the whole class, at least 2 or 3 times, and people will give very supportive comments and some ideas about the sort of writing aspect of the story. So these are not long pieces at all, but and they can be funny, they can be sad, and basically what you want. And generally, speaking, based on a show, at the Goodman. Each participant, again, I said there's no charge to join the storytelling performance groups, and they are provided with 2 free tickets to the Goodman performance. So, they know when we talk about the plays. And it's amazing when people don't realize that interesting things that have happened in their life that are fun to share with others.
When you say that they go over the piece 2 or 3 times, does that mean that they write a piece and then they read it and then they edit it a couple of times? It goes through 2 or 3 edits? Is that what you mean?
Right, in the sense that every student is given an opportunity to read their story aloud to the other students in class, and then people make comments on it. Sometimes the stories are very long and they help people edit it and give good ideas, very supportive comments, and they'll do that maybe 2 or 3 times until the end of the class, the last week. They will have their little, it's not a final exactly, but they will have a run through all the programs, and you can invite your friends. Very often people bring a little some munchies and food for people to eat so that you can basically perform the story before others.
And do people usually do the same genre, or do some people write poetry, some people write maybe songs, or and some people write stories?
It's basically a storytelling workshop, but there are people who are poets, and that infuses their writing, so to speak. I don't think they've done any music as such, so it is a personal narrative piece that they're working on.
And how closely is the are the stories tied? I know that like Coming Home is kind of removed from Joe Turner. How much do the your classmates would know about the play before they start the class?
Well, they like to, they generally the tickets are available early on in the class. I mean, the first or second week. But even just hearing the theme without seeing the play, well, we like to have the play because you get ideas, and the play itself is often very interesting. But it's interpreted very broadly. I mean, it's almost like a prompt that makes you start thinking about something, and it may take you in a direction that's very different from the play, and there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, the idea is to write a story.
And then at the end, when the class members read before the public, right? Is there also a play performance along with the performance by the GeNarrations classes?
No, at that point, you're doing it basically for your class at the location where you learn, go to class. There is a what they call citywide, which is, for example, they had about 21 or 20 classes this last 7-week session. And the people in the class will submit or vote in some way. There are different ways to do it. Someone they would like to represent at the citywide performance, represent their class. So if there are 21 classes, there'll be 21 people, and that will be something that is given, performed at the Goodman Theatre Educational Center. But everyone performs in the sense as a sort of final in their own group, and then people choose from amongst themselves who they'd like to go.
So all the 21 classes are contained within the Goodman Theatre, or is it spread around the city?
No, they're spread around the city, and it's very good because the idea is to have to build community and with these people, and you remember where they all are. They are, half of the classes now are done in person, and since COVID comes, half of them are virtual over Zoom. So in order to do that, but the classes, the in-person ones are located for example, all around the center. For example, the Englewood Senior Citizen Satellite Place, the Holman Square Community Center, the Norwood Park Senior Center, the Portage Park Senior Center. I take classes up in Rogers Park at the Willie B. White Park District building.
Oh, yes.
So, and then there are 2 or 3 that are always taken at the Goodman Theatre Educational Center downtown. So it's what you prefer. And then you have the rest of them. They maybe have 10 in person and maybe 10 or 11 via virtual right in your home. So they can be quite convenient depending on what you enjoy. I like the personal classes, but the ones over the net on Zoom are very good. And it depends what meets your needs.
So, the ones in person, do they have the option of being virtual as well?
They don't, in the sense that, they have 15 people, and when you sign up, and sometimes they drop, they don't always fill 15. You can have a smaller class than that. But that the registrants, the people who want to participate, know that's where their class is. So they're not going to switch around, one session, one weekly session, it's once a week, 2 hours, is going to be virtual, and the other one isn't going to be virtual. So that, it's your choice when you sign up and register, which one you prefer. They also offer what they call specialty classes, which are done, for example, by one of their playwriting fellows, or and it will focus on playwriting, or even on some people can come in and do film. Those tend to be virtual, and there's just like each session, maybe 1 or 2 of those are offered. So those fill up pretty fast, but they try to be very fair about it. If you've taken the class, say in playwriting, 1 session, they want to open it up to other people so that you wouldn't take it the next session. And they would try to make sure everybody who wants to do that can do it. But those are just things that are not necessarily the storytelling. And they usually focus on writing itself a little bit more than performance. And this summer, they don't have a storytelling session. They will again in the fall, the 7-week session. But they do have some writing workshops, 2 of them virtual and 2 of them in person. And they focus on the play Midnight in the Garden of Good and Evil that's being performed right now. And if you know the play or the book, they have some interesting characters in the book, in the play. And also it's very much about Savannah, Georgia. So they have 2 workshops are on how do I describe character in my writing? What are some techniques? What are some things to do? And also 2 about location, and how do we make our stories interesting by providing location. So they'll do that, but the real core of the program is the storytelling program, the 7-week program. And as I said, all you have to be to enter is over 55 and willing to try something new for many people. And there's no upper age limit. So we have people in their 80s doing this. So it's nice, and you meet new people, and it's a nice community. And as I said before, people are very supportive.
When for the Soleil de Ville and the Lifeline Theater, do you have any idea about how their generations got involved in that?
I believe one of the teaching artists, Sharon Evans, and she used to be the artistic director, I believe, of Live Bait Theater, which no longer exists. I mean, they used to have this storytelling festival, which would run for 2 weekends, and tellers from all over, it'd be like 50, 60 tellers. And because she was involved with Goodman and the GeNarrations, they will have a certain number of generation people current participants who want to perform as a group. In other words, they could all say maybe 20 generations people, and they'll each tell one of their stories. You know, and many people want to do that. And there is a sort of, I don't want to even call it audition, but it's a sort of, since it is a theater and there's a charge for seeing these things, they do have to be a little bit selective and choose which of the people who want to do this can go.
And this is separate from the citywide readings for the.
Correct. It's separate from the citywide, which is much more of a sort of a, I mean, each teaching artist does it, I think, a little differently right now, but it might be nominate, 2 people, and then we'll draw from a hat who gets to go. Usually I always find that basically the stories are also interesting in my class, that everybody's good enough to go. It's just a matter. And many of the groups try to make it so that not the same person goes every time. So they want to spread it around.
Did you ever go?
I did this last one in what was it, the spring performance, I think I went to. So I did go to that. It was fun. It was fun.
And usually the citywide one happens at the Goodman Theatre, right?
Yes, it's as far as I know, it's always at the Goodman Theatre.
When do you know how the program has grown over the years, and about when did it start?
I believe what my understanding is, it started about 16, 17 years ago, and it was the brainchild of Willa Taylor, who was the head of education outreach, I believe. I don't know what it was called then. She retired this last, not this last August, and so now Jared Bellotte is the head of the program. So it's been going on for longer than I had ever known. I've only been involved a couple of years. There are people who, they're 6 years, 10 years, and truly enjoy it and keep coming back. So it's one of their programs. I mean, there must be, I try to count like 180 people who participate. Take 20 and multiply it by 15. And then you have people I don't want you to think that you must go every session. I mean, there's a fall, winter, and a spring, and sometimes a summer. And it's not like taking storytelling 101 and then you get to do 102. I mean, if you are busy in the fall, you don't have to sign up. There's nothing like that. And they're always welcome new people. And you just need to watch the website. I don't know when, they haven't announced yet when the signups for the fall session are going to be, exactly when they are going to begin. I suspect they're not going to begin until after Labor Day. So I think sometime maybe late August, early September, they'll have, go to the website under GeNarrations registration, and they'll tell you more about the program too, and they'll have the classes listed, and you click on them and they ask your name and contact info.
And GeNarrations is spelled how?
Well, I think they spell it GenNarrations. So it's GEN and then a capital NARRATIONS. Kind of a play on, we're doing narrative, we're doing narrations, and this is an older generation. So someone said when Willa Taylor retired, well, she still comes in to teach a class as a teaching artist now and then.
Have you ever attended her classes?
I have. Very good classes, and they usually fill up early. I mean, there's a thing if you have a certain artist, you might want to sign up early rather than late. But they thought about calling it reGenerations, because now it was for the first time we have a new person at the head of the program. But it's a very well attended, a very well liked program.
For Willa Taylor, what do you remember most that was like particularly striking about what she taught you?
Well, I took one, was it last summer or what, spring, in which we read we worked on narrative voice and what that means. And we read various artists, trying to think some of the names right now off the top of my head, who have a different point of view and a different style.
Mhm.
So we tried at some point, one artist, one writer, had a funny story, which was sort of based it on an application for a job. So we tried doing that ourselves. So I enjoyed that a great deal. And it changes all the time. And especially the so-called specialty classes change. It depends on it. And you get such a variety of stories because when they say themes, I said before, it can be interpreted very broadly. I think it's just to sort of be a catalyst to get you moving on something, something you remember. I mean, people don't realize how much they remember a story until they're sort of pushed a little, I think, to really think about something.
Did you learn that, or did you learn that from the class, or did you learn that on your own?
Well, I learned it on my own, but it was from the class with the impetus of, because I thought, well, I don't know what I'm going to write about. I mean, I've been taking the class for a couple of years. I'm like, well, don't you run out of stories? And it hasn't quite happened that. And everybody's a storyteller, whether you're just over the phone talking to a friend. I mean, some of the stories are short and funny. Others are very serious, have a much more serious topic. Illness in the family, their own illness. But others just, this funny thing happened to me on the way to the store. So it's a whole variety. Whether you're just sitting in a bar talking to a friend or relating something to your spouse or whatever when you come home from work, about riding the L or whatever it is. Certainly you have a lot of stories in that I learned that, when you think about it, you're always telling stories. And this is just sort of a way of maybe expanding them and realizing all the fun stuff you can talk about.
How did you hear about GeNarrations?
I heard it from Maria Haddon's, well, as I said, first of all, when I had gone to Filet of Solo, but that was several years before I joined. I waited until I was retired to enter the program. But the aldermen often advertise, like in a weekly newsletter. I know our alderman right now, Maria Haddon, she advertises all kinds of things, and there are lots of open mics, for example, and she will put those in there when a group comes in. Storytelling right now in the city is very big, and I had no idea the number of cafes and bars. And when they say open mic, they mean beginners, just anybody who wants to tell a story. And it's a good way to practice, because part of the component of storytelling, it's not quite the same thing as writing a story for someone to read. The spoken word is a little bit different because you've got one shot deal, like the radio, to hear something and to understand. But it's a good idea to practice and be comfortable with having an audience. So they encourage you to do that. But it is quite big in Chicago right now. Lots of people are starting performance groups or groups that have an open mic and invite anybody just to walk in there and tell a story.
Have you ever performed at open mics?
Yeah, I have. Just last week I was up in Rogers Park at the Jarvis Tavern. They had an open mic, and
Wednesdays, right?
Yeah, and the thing is, it always they're different. Some of them are what I would call a true open mic, where you just walk in, you sign a sheet of paper, and 20 people go up one after the other with a time limit. One of the things people have to realize, because everyone wants to do it, they do limit the time. Usually it's 5 or 6 minutes, to be fair, to allow everyone to do it. Other groups want you just to email them and say, well, I would like to tell a story. And and there's really no bar from doing it. It's not like they're being selective, but they say, well, the cafe closes at 8, so we can have 10 people. And so get on the list, and we'll say, are you available in, August 22nd to get on this list to tell a story? And that's really the only way that they are sort of telling people. Now, I mean, there are some story groups who are long time in Chicago who are actual performance groups who do this type of thing in different ways all the time. But there are, sometimes there are open mics in bars, cafes. I know Evanston Cultural Center on Noise, if you're in that area, they're near the city, has something called Word Salad. And they give dates where they'll let you come in the cultural center and do it. I know some of the suburbs, I think in the north, Wilmette and Winnetka, but the city has many programs. There's one called Do Not Submit, and they have maybe 10, 12 places where and beginners are welcome. Open mics across the city and in Kenosha and Waukegan as well. So you just go on the net, look up Do Not Submit. There's some Mrs. Murphy's Bistro. There's some in Andersonville and Hopleaf. I'm just trying to think of all of them. There's quite a few. There's one at O'Shaughnessy's in Ravenswood, and they're usually once a month. But you go on the web, and I think there's also a website. I can't give you the total specifics of it, but it's like Chicago Storytelling, and they will direct you to various places. And then you can go to their website and see what their criteria is. Is it an 8-minute story? Some say you have 10 minutes. Some say you have 5 minutes. There's a whole variety. But usually with GeNarrations, we're talking a 5, maybe 6-minute story. So it doesn't have to be a tome, a book,
Mhm. Are the stories archived?
That's a good question. I don't think Goodman archives them, so you'd want to save them yourself. So, I mean, they do some from the citywide, and if you go to the website, when you go to the website, you can go to their like sample stories. It's more to inform you as to what the program is like. Maybe you'd like to listen to some of the stories, and many of the stories do make it to YouTube and for a broader public. I don't know, I think there might have been a period of time when all of the stories on Citywide were sent to YouTube, but I don't know if I don't know if they do that anymore. But you can certainly hear the kinds of stories that are done, and they change that occasionally.
So when some of them that are archived, you just hear them again, or are they printed out and maybe available somewhere so there is, and it's good take a look?
As far as I know, they're not printed anywhere. You can hear them, and unless you go to the writer or the artist and ask for a copy, whatever.
Okay.
And these storytelling things too at open mics usually are what they're called either book or non-book, meaning you have a choice. You don't have to memorize your story. You can, you'd have to go to each site and find out, but most of them leave that up to you. You can have the paper there and read it, or read off of it, or just feel comfortable with it, or you can do it by rote if you are the type that enjoys that. And people tend to be very supportive at the open mics too.
Definitely. When the writers are giving their performances, the citywide, do you know if the actors of the play are there to maybe gain some inspiration?
No, they're not usually. As far as I know, no, they're busy and they're by that time usually they are finished with the show, because when you get the tickets to see the show, it's early in the 7 weeks, and so they may be there, or they may be in another part of the country, as they work on their careers and do other jobs or whatever. But as far as I know, they're not there. But it is open, and again, that's free. I mean, anybody can go and watch, family, friends, and sometimes some of the teachers, some of the teaching artists will be there, and anybody though, that last session, if you are doing it, at least if you are doing it virtually, not the in-person one, they will post the Zoom, and you can watch everybody virtually. For that, they don't do it with the in-person stories, but maybe just quite a few, and they'll give you the time and the link ahead of time. and you can see what other people are doing
Mhm.
outside of your class.
Mhm. Uh, have you known of any writers that graduates of the classes that went on to become writers themselves or playwrights?
Well, I can't say I do, but I will tell you that some of the people do have theater background
Mm.
who come to GeNarrations who are in the right age group and or had been when they were younger or whatever. There are retired, some of the people I know, there are several retired creative writing teachers. So I know one of my friends who does the stories is a published poet. So there are people who do come with that background, but I don't think people should be intimidated with that because most of the people have very little background and having, I mean, this is a whole new venture for them.
Mhm.
And sometimes the first classes, people are a little bit, oh my, but it works out well.
So it's GeNarrations and it's a lot of narration.
Mhm.
Is there much first person?
Oh, I mean, it is very often because it is personal narrative. It's done in the first person.
Mhm.
And one tries, memory can change things, but you can tell a story. I mean, my latest story was when I was quite young and I went to the barber shop with my father.
Mhm.
So, you are telling it from your point of view and perhaps from the words you heard other people spoke about at the time.
Mhm.
So it is based on your personal experience. It's not based on fiction, as far as you know. I mean, of course, you may not have the memory of an elephant and whatever, but as they say, the truth of the story, as you remember, is good. Don't worry if you said you were in room 223 and you realize it happened in room 221.
Mhm.
That's not terribly important,
Mhm.
but it is based on some experience that you had.
If our listeners want to learn more about GeNarrations, where should they go?
Well, I mean, I think the starting point would be to go to the Goodman website, which I think is www.goodmantheatre with an RE.org.
Mhm.
And they will have, can click on about the program, about when registration is, and be able to listen to some of the stories that they have archived and put on the web.
Thank you so much, Bonnie Bagdon of GeNarrations.
Yeah. Thank you for letting me talk about it. It's a wonderful program
Mhm.
and people should, keep their eyes out. I wish I could tell you when registration is and when it's going to begin, but I don't think that's been quite decided yet. But it'll be in the fall.
Yes, and the website will indicate more
Oh, yeah.
information.
Yeah, just keep up on it and they'll tell you exactly.
Again, what is the website?
It's www.goodmantheatre, and theater is spelled THEATRE in the proper form, .org.
Okay.
And you just look up GeNarrations, that's the topic.
Thank you so much, Bonnie.
Welcome. Have a good day. Bye-bye. Well, that was okay.
Yes, I'm still trying to shut the meeting down. Let's see. Let's see. Okay.